Welcome to EntrepreNourish, the podcast that's hard to say, but easy on the ears. I'm lifelong entrepreneur Felicite Moorman, here today with Ryan Buchert, my co-founder and partner in crime on multiple paths.
Hello.
Ryan.
Yes.
A lot of exciting things going on. Most exciting thing you're working on?
Well, for me, the most exciting is our BOSS.Tech venture. It's getting real close to being launched and finally starting to come together. So that's very exciting to me.
How long have you been working on it?
Well, I've been thinking about it for 4 years, but
Ooh, big brain.
I guess I finally brought the concept to you about 2 years ago. We
Yeah.
started coding, maybe a year and a half ago. So it's been a long path.
So what unexpected thing happened on this journey? Maybe the most unexpected thing.
Most unexpected. Well, it was a crazier beginning. We ventured and focused very, very early on the culture, on the team, and kind of how we're doing things, which is kind of was a later thought. And focusing on Costa Rica as a starting place was an adventure in itself. And
Costa Rica, Pura Vida. Honestly, first, I thought Ryan just wanted to surf. And I was like, Ryan, if you want to surf, just surf. Like, go. You can retire and live on the beach. And then he asked me for, I don't know, maybe the 17th time, like, come to Costa Rica and check it out. And we did. And how long was the first trip?
it was 7 to 10 days, somewhere around that round.
Yeah, 7 days. And at the end of the trip, I was definitely committed to headquartering in Costa Rica, but I couldn't find the why.
Yeah.
I felt it. And I think for entrepreneurs, gut is serious.
That's very serious. Yeah. A lot of times you're acting never enough information. So the gut has to find information that you can't.
It does. Yeah. So one of the things that I say that entrepreneurs have to do, and a fair way to alleviate regret, because you're not going to be perfect, you're going to make mistakes, and it's easy to ruminate and really think about those mistakes. And one of the things that I tell all entrepreneurs that I work with is that you have to make a decision at the time you have to make it with the best information you have. And that's all you can do. So you can't know the future. You can't predict COVID. You can't predict recession. I mean, obviously, we were supposed to have one and didn't. So even when you think there's something coming, all you can do is make decisions based on what you know in the time frame that you can know it. And I think for headquartering in Costa Rica, for me, it really came down to the fact that 80% of the population lives middle class. And that reduces a lot of the grind and hustle that we feel here in the United States, I think.
Yeah, it's a very, very different point of view.
Pura Vida. No, it's not lip service in Costa Rica. There's a true feeling for community and family and even work that resonates.
Yeah,
and
I think it fits our old cultures had that in our companies, but it was nice to find a country of people that really embrace that general concept.
It's incredible. Most surprising thing to me was the public availability of AI that occurred in November of 2022. I think we stopped the presses or the coding, and you did a significant rebuild.
Yes. So I have a very big belief that your architecture and what you start is hard to shift as the company grows in time.
And you have experience doing that shift.
Oh yeah, it's painful.
We had a stop restart when we were several years old at our last company when we launched in Japan to a very different standard than we held ourselves to very high standards, but this was really next level, both from a strategic partnership, but also from a technological point of view.
Yeah, in that case, it was a combination of security things and physical locations of what we had to do for Japan versus here, and it was a large conglomerate that had their own rules. But the harder part for us was reshifting our architecture while running. Like we were running the company, running all our pieces, but moving it over, and that's always it takes probably 5 times the amount of resources to do something while it's running versus like, oh well, it doesn't matter if it breaks. There's no one using it.
Yeah. So how did that impact your decision when you and I started talking about the public access to AI?
It was very important to me to pause because I know how much painful it is later.
Yeah.
I also know how incredibly important shipping and having a version 1 as early as possible in a company's life cycle is. But we had to balance those two, and in this case, it just felt so much more important, I think, to ship. I'm sorry, really to pause our shipping, and to look at how to adjust in a smart manner that better prepare ourselves.
And how did your co-founder feel about that?
I'm kidding.
Well, that's tough. Like we had already started our marketing engine. We had already you had already you didn't know if it was your time to come on, but I felt it was very important that this engineers shouldn't choose what ships a lot of times. You need to know what the product is going to respond to, what the product market is going to respond to. So you have to mold. You should be working on what's important to marketing and your customers. And so I felt it was important to get that stuff rolling, to get those opinions at other diverse interests and opinions, and inserted as early as possible.
So just a moment ago, I said you make the best decision you can at the time you have to make it.
Yes.
Any regrets about slowing our rollout in order to embrace AI?
No, not in the slightest. Happy with all the shifts. And we didn't just shift around that. It enabled the point of view to shift a lot of pieces and get a lot more aligned. I know a lot of times we look at competitors and you get scared, like, oh my God, they just have to do this little thing and they'll be like us, and you can get scared like that. But the fact is a lot of times that's an architecture shift. And for us to make these big architecture shifts now makes us better positioned when we launch for our long term, and to be against larger competitors and to already have major advantage that it takes a lot to overcome.
Nice. Good decision making.
Thanks.
I'm glad we stopped and had that discussion.
Yes, but we were lucky we had the resources to do it, and that's not always the case.
No doubt. Privilege.
Yes.
Right there. Based on a lot of hard work too.
Yes, always.
So we're talking about BOSS.Tech. BOSS.Tech is a business operations super app solution. So this is the first super app for business, if not worldwide, in the United States. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you're excited about, what surprised you outside factors, internal technology deliverables that you just are blown away by? I know that you're impressed by this team and their technological capabilities every day. So,
well, I think what I'm excited about is as a CTO, I always thought my job as understanding technology more than business people and business more than technology people, and kind of bring the two together and tell business people what's possible with technology and enable technology people to make something that aligns with what businesses need. So that job has always been incredibly hard, and to me, BOSS.Tech was a way of bridging those gaps, of bringing them close. That people that are using it for business were able to easily enable their technologists to quickly give them what they need and want. And for me, this was me getting what I've needed and wanted in every company before. So it's very exciting in terms of that. In terms of the surprises, it is a lot of times when you have, literally when I talked about years of kind of coming up with an idea in my head, you can't just download that. There's a lot to that, and you can't get it across to an engineering team that's like, oh, this person's focused on front end, this person knows databases and things like this. But so it takes time, and sometimes you have to make things so they understand it and get to certain points. What I didn't expect is how much they were able to early on go pretty deep in directions that I needed, which enabled kind of, in some ways, a more of a little bit more of a delay, but like massive amounts of more value early on. And the fact that they could take these ideas and run with them, I think had a lot to do with our approaches, that we weren't just saying code this thing. We said code this thing, here's an example, and you're going to have to code it to these harder aspects, which
I've been in those meetings.
I'm glad you trusted me to do something crazy like that, but throwing...
I don't think I trusted you. I think I asked you to do something crazy.
Yeah,
like
but you asked me to do something crazy.
that,
but
that includes trust inherently,
Yes.
but...
Yeah, but bringing in more business needs like early on helped guide the engineers and help them understand the long-term goals. And that's not a usual thing. You get the first version and then you start injecting the problems, and I'm trying to do it earlier almost as a training.
Yeah.
And they learned fast. And I didn't expect that speed of architecture improvement and shift.
Nice. Well, it's certainly a challenge for me to wait. I think I tell a story that a relative of mine took me to lunch and was sharing, I think, the 7 virtues of good human beings. And I thought I was doing pretty well. I mean, I'm sure that humility was in there, but I thought I was doing pretty well until he hit patience. And if I have a superpower, patience is my kryptonite. So it's been a journey.
Yes.
And to see a product come to fruition from the very beginning with you is a new journey for us. Mm-hmm. We always had the capacity to build on work that we both knew and relationships that we both knew prior. So this is new for us as co-founders working together. I think that's had its trials and tribulations. Certainly nothing foundational, but even you and I have had to learn and relearn how to have difficult conversations around technology that's new to us. So that's been, for me, in the last 18 months, not a huge learning curve, but a surprise. Mm-hmm. Because I figured, hey, we've done this for 12 years. What don't we know?
Right.
About working together. Yeah. And that's been more challenging than I expected, to get on the same page with new technology. Right. There's obviously a higher learning curve for me than you, but it goes to the point where you said you can't just download your brain, and you've been thinking about this for so long. Originally, I asked Ryan if he could clone himself as our next endeavor. This is as close as we can get. The business operating mind with the technological foundation that you deliver into your companies, delivered as a super app. Listen, unless you're a sheep, I think this is as close as we're going to get to cloning. So do you remember the question that I ask of you every time we start a new endeavor?
I don't know.
Okay. So the question that I ask you every time we have the opportunity to begin something new is, what is the hardest problem that you think we can solve and take to market,
right,
to serve the world, to have global impact?
And that's why we do what we do. It's about impact. And I think that's it's always a hard question, but it's fun.
Is this as hard as you expected?
Harder than anything I've done before.
Okay, I really think we should pause right here. Just say that again. Really.
That's the hardest thing I've done so far.
And you've done some hard things. Mm-hmm. You've created literally hundreds of smart Internet of Things products. Mm-hmm. You have created at least 4 international software platforms to support smart products that I know of. Worked on helicopter maintenance systems. I mean, what am I missing? Hard things you've done.
Phone, 3G, 4G, 5G phone.
Oh,
patents
sorry, my bad. Only like 13 patents in the iPhone.
Processor design for mainframes. A lot of random things. things.
Random hard things that you have patents around, things that you delivered into marketplaces where they had not been delivered before, both the consumer and the B2B markets. Pretty exceptional to hear you say that this is the hardest thing you've ever done. Can you tell me a little bit about choosing to do, other than me asking you, choosing to do a hard thing when you could have chosen to go surf in Costa Rica? Why?
No, it's for me it's about making differences, and the idea in this to deliver to entrepreneurs something like a tool that enabled technology to be easier for them was big deal for me.
Ryan in your pocket? I think we have a new tagline. It's not appropriate. We're not going to do that tagline. All of your business in the palm of your hand, perhaps. Ryan in your pocket?
No.
Yes. It has a ring to it, though.
Yeah. Because so most of the things like a cell phone can be represented by a mathematical equation. It can be made pretty easily. Processors, like you're building on technology that was literally invented 50 to 100 years ago, and you're just building on top. It's incrementing. It's not tremendous things that happen in inventions and stuff. Everything's about incrementing. The challenge in this just had to do with so many little pieces that had to align and so many people that had to align. It was a new level of parallel processing that had to have too many points that were across everybody. And so the pace, the slower pace enabled kind of a different invention. It wasn't just an equation. It was more of a, concept of how information is shared across apps that were never meant to be connected.
So here's what I love. A lot of people I know in technology figure out what they're good at, often a competitive advantage, something that they are uniquely well tuned for because of expertise, because of proclivity. They're just good at this. Certainly in hardware, I found my niche fast. But you seem as excited about this new technology as I've ever seen you. And I think that for you to drop your own competitive advantage in hardware to pursue something that is inventing, I think that speaks to your heart and mind as an inventor first.
Yeah. And it's not the first time I've done it. I mean, first I was
really
good at data, and then I was really good, like data and data structures and databases were like my first big thing in engineering. And then I fell in love with chip design, like how microchips and like how to design those uniquely and special. And then moving into the wireless realm of large wireless networks and computing power, like how to deal with processing and computing stuff. Like I've done this a couple times.
Okay, so I'm just going to pause you. I hate to interrupt you. I've invented things a couple of times because that's what I'm saying is you're not doing some process that you know that you're doing again. You're inventing what most of us use today. And I think that for you get so excited about the invention and then you go and apply it in business that I feel like even you forget that you've invented these things. Not when you go back and take this moment like we are now to think about them, but you invented the math in the iPhone. Not all of it, but a hearty portion thereof. There were lawsuits about this. You invented full software platforms to support building-wide automation. You invented consumer technology that is prolific today. It's everywhere. I really, even before I would call you a business person or an engineer, obviously you're engineering inventions, but just in this moment that we're having right now, it just reiterates to me how much of an inventor you are. Like that's the thing that you do unlike anyone else.
And to me, it's not just inventing things to invent things. You can invent things for your engineering
Sure.
friends, but like to me, it was always a simplification of technology. It's taking, I like doing more design and work on the technology to make it easier for the person to use. To make the slightest thing easier, you could do massive amounts of work on the design. And I just enjoyed that, seeing the places how you can apply technology and make things simpler.
All right. So you and I both started our entrepreneurial journeys relatively early. Where do you see as your start?
I went to college with the idea to be an entrepreneur. I knew I wanted to be one.
Oh, you did?
Kind of, but I didn't believe I was one. And I wasn't. I think I had to finish my engineering, and then I didn't have the ability for public speaking in any way or anything. Like, I decided that my training and my method of learning business, I was trying to make a decision. I'm going to go to a master's in business, an MBA type of program, or do I want to take that amount of money and apply it to try to start a company?
You chose the latter.
Yes.
Spoiler alert. You chose the latter.
And that was Bulogix was the concept that was just like trying to start a company. And I think I learned more about all the aspects I didn't know about in life. I knew that engineering was an easy thing for me. Inventing was easy, but how to apply it to business, I had to spend 10 years of trying to start a company to learn that.
Yeah. So I think that's important for people to hear. You wouldn't call yourself an overnight success.
No way.
Okay, we'll talk. I think
Yeah,
that.
no, that's okay.
So one of the things that I recently discovered is social media virality often stems around quick fix.
Yeah.
And I feel like that might be a huge disservice to today's entrepreneurs, to have this understanding that these exceptional successes come either easily or quickly or because you do things on social media.
Yeah, I mean, the 10,000 hour concept, I believe, is real to become an expert in something. The thing is, entrepreneurship is not one skill.
Yeah.
Like, you have to learn the business side, the technology sides, and in many cases.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you again,
Yes.
but the 10,000 hours. So the conventional wisdom in business, and take this or leave this, is that it requires 10,000 hours of effort on a relatively specialized thing. And entrepreneurship, to Ryan's point, is not specialized. It is diverse. And that if you do the math, that's 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week for 5 years to get to 10,000 hours. So that's what would enable an individual to be an expert. By the way, that's when I say start your side hustle in that field that you're an expert in next time. Okay, talk more about that concept and what that looks like for an entrepreneur.
Yeah, there's so much. 10,000 hours of not being an entrepreneur yet. There's the parts you don't know yet. Like if you're the baker trying to start a cake company, like you have to learn all the business, all the finance, like you don't have to learn all of it. You have to learn how to connect with experts in those areas and things like this. But for me, that was a long process, and I didn't really have any. I had some semi-mentors and stuff, but it was really like I had to learn what it was to get a good mentor, how you find a mentor, how you found a business partner, what's a good business partner type, what's bad type, like all the things you have to learn. And it took me like 10 years of fumbling around trying to start a company before I even had something that was rolling in a decent manner. And learned enough to know how to do that better next time.
So years.
Oh yeah.
Not overnight, not 2 years, not 4 years.
Yeah, but
Years.
it took years of practicing and trying and failing. Like you learn more from failure than from success. And, some people do succeed the first time, but I think that I know what I've learned when I know something because of how many times I've failed and I know it doesn't work.
Yeah, I often hear you mentoring team members, coworkers, etc., and you say you haven't failed enough.
Yes.
Like you're not going to take the next step because until you fail, you haven't learned enough. And that always, for me, that's always one of those moments of like, ugh, because failure's hard. It's not easy. It's very hard to keep the perspective, oh, I learned, when you're failing. And whenever I hear that, it gives me that moment of like, oh, put your shoulders back down, relax, this is true. And I think that you create very safe space for our team to try and fail and try
to do
again.
that. Yeah, and the thing is a lot of what we do is it's failing and maintaining the ability to keep moving forward until you luck out and succeed.
Yeah.
And so the overnight success is that I lucked out now, but like, whether it was designing the 100th light bulb that finally it worked, like whatever you had to do to figure out the success.
And I think that's huge. I think you just hit on something that I say frequently. You can't get to number 100 if you don't do number 1.
Yes.
So failure as a blocker, fear of failure as a blocker, I think our courage and bravery as entrepreneurs comes from delivering number 1, number 2, number 3, until we get to that point where we're delivering what we intended to deliver. Yeah. And it's the courage and bravery to do number 1 and number 2 that really determines whether or not you'll persevere in entrepreneurship and eventually find that success. There's a saying, startups don't fail, founders quit. Yes. And I think about that all the time. Mm-hmm. Every time I'm discouraged, or I think this could do something to us, not kill us, but this could hurt us, or this competitor, or this. Every time I think that comes to my mind. Startups don't fail, founders quit. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that continuing and not quitting is all that has to happen to continue the startup. We've seen layoffs in the tech industry. We've seen pivots that caused a lot of pain. We've seen pivots that caused a lot of success.
Yes.
But if the founder is committed, they can often carry on.
Yeah. And there's so many stories of that. It's they're endless, but like I truly believe that too. And so for me, it's just I'm never really discouraged by the failures. It's just this is the next step. But you got to get to version 1. So that's always the hard part of every piece of the puzzle has to be shipped. That's the first part.
Number 1. So I'm excited to share with you that we already have questions coming in for the podcast.
Okay.
I know. We did throw out a couple of sneak peeks to friends, family, a couple of entrepreneurs that we know. And I'd love to do our first question from the outside.
Okay.
All right. So I know people who are attempting their first entrepreneur endeavor.
Okay.
And I recommend having a co-founder.
Yes.
Because I truly don't believe that anyone can understand what a founder is going through except a co-founder. And that's a right co-founder, not just a co-founder. Yes. So the first question that came into us, and this is on our Facebook group, EntrepreNourish, is what do you look for in a co-founder? How do you choose a co-founder?
Well, I will say is, that you're looking for someone that fills in all your gaps. Then most likely you don't even fully know what your gaps are, but or where to find that person. And so I wish I knew magical ways. Like it took I think 10 years of intense searching to even find to be able to work with you at any point. Like and I told you that, and like, no, this is the rest of the decision for what I would like to be doing. I think you have to find that person in the realms of other entrepreneurial like people. You got to find places where those people are hanging out, what they're doing, and that's a hard thing to do while you're doing things. But you can start things out, and while you're looking for that person. But I think you have to find the communities that you can hang out with like-minded people that are also trying to start things.
Yeah,
and sometimes those are events for funding stuff, or there's all kinds of weird little community events, even in Philadelphia. That
Philly, we have Philly Startup Leaders. That's, I think, the first event I went to was a Startup Leaders event, and it was, I I think it was life-changing. I mean, it introduced me to people that I didn't know the level of success that they'd had because they were hanging out in jeans and t-shirts and meeting everybody. And I was privileged to meet the person who introduced us to our lawyers who were integral in our acquisition, multiple other startup leaders in Philadelphia. That was a moment. I'll tell that story another time. I want to keep this more brief, but networking.
Yeah, I don't know a better way because, and the thing is you got to find those people that are going through the same pains. Like, I think we've made mistakes in sometimes pulling people from corporate environments, being like, yeah, come and help with our startup. And that's a whole different thing.
That's a whole different
If
thing.
they weren't out there trying to do it by themselves already, they're probably not the right person. But if they're trying to do something that someone aligns and you can find ways to start working with that person in some way, shape, or form, maybe you can find a path to working together one day and building some kind of mutual respect.
That's been a failure of mine, actually, bringing in people from large corporations because they have a different skill set and I'm attracted to that different skill set, but it doesn't necessarily translate to the pace and the lack of structure inherent in scaling startups. So that's been a failure of mine. It's very tempting to try to pull somebody in who has more experience, even if it's from a different career path. I'm not saying it never works. I just haven't had it work.
Well, the thing is that you see them good at their art.
Yeah, absolutely.
The environment in which they do the art
Yeah.
can really affect some people. It's just a different environment. It's raw. It's there's no support system all around you and 5 other people doing the same job as you. You can go ask how to do it. It's like you're the person and you're learning for everybody, and everyone's relying on you. And there's
It's chaos.
yeah, it's not. Some people, and just like anything, like my favorite place to do engineering isn't the loudest bar I can find. That is not everyone's favorite place to do engineering.
The loudest
that's an
bar I
environment.
can find is not my favorite place to do anything at all. No, that's not my gig.
Yeah.
Maybe when I almost said too young. Maybe when I was 21.
And I'm pretty sure that I'm very weird in that regard, considering every time I'm in a bar, people are like, what the hell are you doing with a laptop? So,
Yeah, I've been there for that. Not often, because that's solo work.
Yeah.
Focus. Okay, I will share. I agree with you completely. This is the advice I give to entrepreneurs starting out, looking for a co-founder. Find someone with complementary skill sets. So many times I see, and this isn't about engineers. This is about anybody. 2 people who have done marketing together, 2 people who have done engineering together or gone to school together for the same basic skill set, but you need 3 things in a business. You need your salesperson, you need your operations person, and you need your hard artist, if you will, the person who's really working on the product. And you don't have to have all 3 of those as co-founders. We see a lot of individual founders. That's certainly not uncommon. I think it's probably more common than co-founders. And that's usually your artist who comes to the world with an idea or product. But it's so important to have those other 2 pieces.
yeah. And the thing is it could be you can find this person as a complementary skill. Like maybe, one person's doing, two different skills, and one person has to be better at the sales, the other person's better at the finance and operations part. But then you see each other as complementary, and your businesses might align. You can start working together on certain things and kind of develop a partnership and start working with them. But you have to have those parts and recognizing in yourself what you're good at, but also be able to see it in others when they're get better at something than you are.
Yeah. So I will add, for those who are looking for a co-founder, Ryan and I found each other on a subcommittee of a committee of a board that we sat on. And we were actually adversarial because the goals that we had for our businesses at the time were not aligned. And so the conflict resolution that you and I experienced before we actually even started working together as co-founders, I think led us in part to know that we would be able to work together.
Yes, absolutely.
And
I think there was a lot of mutual respect, and
no doubt.
and you were already calling me about technology things.
I was calling Ryan about everything. At one point I was like, should I send like cookies or something? I think I called you. I don't know. There was a lot of change happening in the industry, and nobody had a feel or understanding. It was international change happening so fast. And we were manufacturing international products, and I couldn't get the answers from anyone but you. And you had them in your head. Like, you'd just be like, yeah, that's 918.4737. And I'm like, what?
But and the mutual part for that was like, I respected the fact that you came into an industry that, and in 18 months, no one knew who you were, to like the second most go-to person in the industry. And so I knew your networking ability, you respected my technology pieces, and that's how we built our mutual respect.
Yeah, that's just an example. It doesn't have to be a bar or a networking event that's party-like. Like, you can do good work and find a co-founder. You can do hard work and find a co-founder. And while we had the opportunity to run into one another in all of the other places that co-founders do, doing that hard work with you early on.
Yeah.
And me doing my best work and you doing your best work, and both of us being the referral for that industry, was very organic in nature for coming together to do something together. Yeah. So I don't want to make it seem like if you go party a lot, you're going to find your co-founder. We certainly spent more time doing hard work.
Yeah.
Which I think this is the first time I actually am realizing the foundation we had before we started. I tell the origin story of how we met,
right?
But the fact that we resolved industry-wide international problems together before we actually started something together, that's pretty, I don't know, that's profound. I like that. We should do this more often.
Definitely.
So I think that's a really good question. That was our first question on the Facebook page or a Facebook group. How was it fundraising with a woman CEO?
I'm not laughing at you. It's
I didn't think you were, Ryan.
I still will never forget the time that like, there's so many things that happened, but like, oh, this looks really great, but you don't mind not being CEO, right?
That
like, and
my neck on that
knowing how much the team respected you, how much the industry respected everything, and this person's being like, yeah, I think a man can do this better. Like, literally, like, to your face is just like, wow.
Within how many minutes of meeting was that?
It was like 5 or 10 minutes. It was like literally walk out of the building. Like,
yeah, I think it really made you angrier than it made me even.
Oh yeah, I'm quite sure.
And I don't see you angry very often, so it was. I think. I don't want to say I'm used to it. I was very fortunate, despite being in the legal industry and finance prior to tech, to establish my expertise quickly enough to assuage any concerns that any of the men in those circles had about my competence, which was an assumed lack of competence because I was a woman. That's irritating, but the fact that I could overcome it quickly, consistently, kind of backburnered it for me until we went out fundraising. Yeah. And then I can't say that I was shocked or surprised, but to see you angry opened my eyes to it in a way that it hadn't been before. Yeah, that was a good one. But I will say, the investors that we eventually closed with, most of them were very right for us. And recognized our complementary skill set and expertise and capabilities beyond any of the negative that we had to deal with, I think.
Yeah, no, agreed.
Yeah, I miss a couple of those people.
Definitely, same.
What's your biggest concern? Are you willing to share that?
My biggest concern is always distraction.
Good one.
And that's distraction out, like with us, with all our separate companies, is like the club and but it's also a distraction within the company, where to focus and making sure you're working in the right feature at the right time. It's very hard to keep that balance.
Yeah, I'm most excited about countering that with the feedback loop.
Yes, no, feedback loops are the best way. It's been getting those flywheels that with feedback from customers as part of that is it's both high speed for growth, but it also helps with the focus.
Yeah, I think that the biggest competitive advantage we had at our last company after technology was the fact that we created a strategic partnership with a company that delivered us 150,000 customers within 6 months.
Right.
And that hurt beyond measure. Honestly, I can't really, I mean,
the wrong pricing on top of it.
The wrong pricing,
really tough.
that was really difficult. But it did give us the feedback. We weren't making anything up. We were just responding to requests. And it made us the most complex, in a good way, platform available.
Yeah, and it took a lot of, and that feedback loop wasn't simple to get. There's a lot of visiting customers and being connected to the customers.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good piece of advice for entrepreneurs. Use your openness and responsiveness to client feedback as a competitive advantage. If you can drop your ego and defensiveness and really hear the problems with your product or service and then respond well and fix them, the number of businesses that do that well today is probably, I'm going to guess it's exceptionally low.
Yeah.
And that is a relatively easy competitive advantage.
Yeah.
You don't have to build something for that. You don't have to have a brick and mortar.
You have even more time in the beginning to do it.
Yeah.
So use it.
Yeah, use your time at the beginning to create community and hear them.
Yes, definitely.
That's good. Oh, look at that.
And those relationships don't even go away over time in the business.
No, I think
Even if
that's
you want them to.
I think that's another really important piece. You don't really know who you can help or who can help you. And it's not a mercenary perspective, but when Jasper and I were talking, he's like, every single person you meet could be an opportunity. And he didn't mean simply an opportunity for that person to help you, but an opportunity for you to help that person,
Right.
which is relationship building and valuable and delivers long-term possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you just hit on it again. Like every relationship is an opportunity. And if you can listen and respond and deliver, that's to me what business is about.
Yeah, agreed.
You know, I'm not here because I love building mobile apps. I love delivering impact and improving lives. Same. All right. Nothing I haven't asked you. Okay. Yeah, here's what's going to happen. You're going to go home tonight. You're going to go to bed, and 42 questions are going to pop into your head.
Yep.
So bring those back.
Will do.
This
Not
is
a problem.
one of many opportunities for you and I to sit down and speak and reflect a little bit on our entrepreneurial journey. I don't think we've done enough of that, considering I think I had 3 epiphanies sitting right here with you today. All right. This was EntrepreNourish. We hope we gave you something to nourish your entrepreneurial soul. We will be back, and I have 6 or 7 people who are already reaching out to participate. Solopreneurs who are just getting started, coaches who are doing really exceptional work, coaching climate change activists, which is a tough job, both the coaching and the activism. A doctor who has realized that she's an entrepreneur at heart, a gentleman whose business is pivoting from a community space similar to the one that we have to a community space that will be more collaborative, possibly with us. So the list is endless. The entrepreneurs of the world are my favorite people of the world. Hardworking, sometimes focused, sometimes working through distraction, but always looking to deliver something into the world. And that's truly inspiring, maybe even motivating. So join us and maybe get a little entrepreneurial soul food.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.